I narrate audiobooks, and I narrated a book called James,
Mm-hmm.
which was top 10 in everything and won
Mm-hmm.
all these crazy awards. The audiobook awards, the audiophile book awards were they're like the Academy Awards of audiobooks, and I won best fiction narrator. I was nominated for 3. I won 2, and I'm up for. There's a huge festival called the LA Book Festival. It's ginormous. The great authors come, and Percival Everett's
Mm-hmm.
going to be there, who wrote the book, and I'm nominated for the best narration of a fiction book there too. So
I
that's
think you're shooing
this
for the
month.
win because you won the Audie. So why not this one?
Hey,
It's
you
kind of
know,
like winning
This is
the
like
BAFTA.
the BAFTA.
Yeah. It's so funny. You win the BAFTA, you're gonna win the Oscar. I mean, come on. Like
thank
this
God
is
for the rumor anyway.
yeah, this is huge. So tell us about the book Late Rehearsals though. What's the inspiration
And I
behind that?
left
What is
out the
that book
thing that
about?
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I left out the major.
You're in good
thing.
hands
So,
here, Dominic. You're in good hands with me. Yes.
I appreciate y'all. I appreciate
Mhm.
y'all. So I have a book of short stories. It's a collection of 13 short stories. It's called Late Rehearsals. I'm very, very proud of it. It is a collection of short stories that are, I have to say, character driven,
Mhm.
and various worlds. That's all I can tell you. I mean, it's men and women, it's love and life and death and humor. The thing about humor, you can talk about anything
Mhm.
if you make people laugh. I saw a solo show. This guy's talking about his life as a cancer patient. Hysterical.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also very profound. The guys, he knew how to. But that's the interesting thing that you learn. You learn that if you make people laugh, you pretty much can talk about anything. And
Yeah.
I make you laugh in the book. And I've given stories out to over 100 people because that's how I wanted to do the litmus test. If this is any good, you give it to people that will be honest, And I always try to give it to people
tribe,
that want me to fail, because you got the people in there that yeah, I'd love to see your work, yeah, man.
Exactly.
And,
See,
I have a
Nick.
story about it.
See, I'm not one of those dudes. Every time you ask me for feedback, I'm honest with you, man.
That's right.
Because I want you to win. Anyway,
That's right.
go ahead.
Good friend.
Go ahead.
That's
Dominic.
a good friend.
Sorry, I had to.
So anyway, I mean,
to pat
so I
myself
get
on the ass.
and the response was the same from every single person. So I'm very happy, because it's hard. I'm not somebody I've been writing my entire life, but I'm not what you call a happy writer. Oh, I can't wait to write. Oh, let me get it. No, and people always talk about inspiration. For me, it's perspiration. You go in there, you put the work in, you try to hide the effort, and you try to be truthful and tell a story that is worth telling and entertaining. You got to entertain people. Why not? I don't have any problem with that. I don't want to read something where I want to cut my wrists afterwards. You know what I mean?
Yep.
John McWhorter said that he writes an angry book and then he writes a happy book. Basically for the same reason. It's like once he writes an angry book, he doesn't want to live in that space for too long. So he comes around and he'll write a happy book or a positive book to follow it. So I think I think that makes sense. And I think there's a lot of people who want to write, but they don't have a whole lot to say. And I think, outside of missing sort of the habit of writing that I really need to develop more, what I enjoy in writing is bringing out and having sort of the cojones to say how I really feel. And I look for that in writing as well. So I'm really looking forward to reading your book and getting that sense of you just, hey, this is what it is. Here's how I feel. Let me lay it out there for the people to absorb. Yeah, because when I go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. No, so you said how you feel, and we normally don't do what other people do here, right? We try not to ask questions that everybody's going to ask. Yeah, but I do have a question. I'm going to frame it slightly differently than I know a lot of people ask, right? For writers, and the question is like, so when people read this, how much of this is autobiographical?
Oh, yeah,
right. Now, and I'm going to stop before you answer, right? Because that's the question that everybody asks. And the answer usually is, well, as a writer, there's always a part of you in those stories.
That's right.
So I'm asking from the sense of, really, how much, like when we read these stories, right? How much of you is in it? Like, is that you in that story? Is that something you went through? Or is it just these ruminations, these ideas, these thoughts you've had over time, the dreams that you decided to put on paper, and it isn't really you, but it's just these fleeting things? I'm just curious. Is it you?
It's a question that everybody says, is that you read one of them, right? You read the story.
Indeed.
So
I did.
People always ask me, was that you? And I say, no, I didn't have COVID. I was never. No, the thing is, part of you is always. I don't care if you're writing Superman. Part of it's you.
Yeah.
If you're writing, Iron Man. If you're writing, Death on Elm Street or whatever, a part of that's you. But I'm really more interested in, and it's actually written in the preface. I'm really more interested in sort of like the faculties of life. How people live. We greet life every day with our own context. And what I try to do the most when I'm writing is not to have a context, not to have any kind of censorship, whatever comes out. And then it has to be good, of course. You go back over it, rewriting is everything to me, But of course, a lot of stuff, I might have something from this interchange with you guys, and might turn something on. I've written a story from a sentence I heard somebody say, So
I've done,
is it me? Yeah, but
yeah.
no.
Right. Well, here's the deal. So this is why this is me, selling because the work is great. But here's why someone might ask you if it's you, because you couldn't have written something that freaking good and that personal. It's so good. That's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like you had to have experienced it yourself. That's how good the writing is. That's what I'm saying. Like, that to me, that's the sign of a good writer. It's like, you had to have lived this. Like,
what a compliment, by the way.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's very kind of you. And I heard this a few times, and people refuse to believe that it wasn't.
Right.
Yep.
So you just have to let them have that, So, okay, well, all right.
Yep.
Yeah, well, now I'm really on pins and needles to read this. I got to get my hands on this.
It's a good book. I'm very proud of it. It's not no, it's just like, I lucked out and, I sort of got the parallels right. And I was generous to the page. And, I've had an interesting life. We've all had interesting lives, It's what we do. It's how we reconcile.
I don't know if all of us have interesting lives.
We do, whether we notice it or not.
Exactly.
I told me last week the things that you've done, Chris. And if you stop,
I live an interesting life.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
No. That's Chris talking about other people. That's what that is. He's like, no, I live an interesting life, but y'all don't. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if everybody. No, I see what you're saying though, because John McPhee, right? He wrote a whole book about one tennis game, and it was brilliant. One tennis match. And if you do notice the beauty in your own life, you could write an entire and completely compelling book about watching a gopher run from one side of your yard to the other. It just, what's in you? What language can you pull out to make it interesting and beautiful? And look, if I want to give a couple of shout outs to things you said. So one, people talking about incredibly personal things. I instantly thought of David Rakoff, the late David Rakoff, who would talk about his, whether it be homosexuality or cancer or illness on stage. Shout out to Andrew Schultz, who just did a stand-up called Life. It's brilliant. I think it's the best stand-up maybe since Killing Them Softly by Dave Chappelle. He made being infertile funny in the process of
what's his name?
Andrew Schultz. Andrew Schultz.
Yep. SHULZ, correct?
I think so. You might miss a letter there, but if you just type that in, you'll get there. I just want to give that a shout out. Okay. And I want to just tell the audience, I want to give a shout out to you because I want to tell the audience about something you said, which is this idea of I don't know if everybody realizes how hard it is to be honest in your art. and to let those parts of yourself bleed through, even a fictional story, even a story that you may not have necessarily told, but because you can't separate the art from the artist when it's really, really good, a part of you is in that. It bleeds into it. And I've just seen in myself many times, and I've seen it a lot of times, where there's certain art and certain words you want to say, you want to write, you want to sing, whatever, but to do them would disrupt your family, would disrupt your friendships. I've lost a friend over something I've written, and it wasn't about him or her, but he thought it was, and I couldn't convince him otherwise. So, these things happen. You're sort of getting close to where you want to get when you start pissing people off with your art a little bit, or people are a little sort of knocked on their ass about it. Like, it's really difficult to do that because we don't like change. We like to protect people. We like to keep everything safe and secure. And art lives in a space that walks right up to the edge without falling off. And maybe sometimes we do fall off, but I just want to give you a shout out for writing honestly, and what sounds like is a really powerful collection of short stories.